Trail braking is one of the biggest questions I get asked. Braking is not just about slowing down. It is a precisely timed combination of individual actions. This involves weight transfer from the rear to the front smoothly so not to destabilize the bike. Towards the end of the braking zone there is corner entry. The handover from brakes to corner entry needs to be smooth and progressive, as once again weight transfer is involved, this time from front to rear, balancing the bike for the corner. Turn 12 at Macau, a typical corner that can help you visualise what's involved. A flat approach, but from the tip-in the track starts to drop away, making it really important you ease off the brakes as you tip in effect trail braking. Also to help, I've drawn a couple of charts to help me explain the technique. One is an XY chart, brake pressure over time, and the other one is an angle of lean chart. Starting off with the racing line, there are several points on the line that actions need to happen in the correct order and at the correct time. Marked in red, these dots in effect make a dot-to-dot line into and around the corner. As you reach the first of these on a straight line approach, the initial braking reference point, here it's 100% throttle to 100% brakes. I use a percentage because one rider's hard braking may differ to another rider's. After all, how hard is hard? So it's your maximum throttle to your maximum brake pressure. The next dot is the tip-in reference. Now here's where we need to look at the angle of lean chart. Generalising, if the bike is upright or close to it, you can be at maximum brake pressure or your 100% braking. The green line depicts the level ground. The pink line is the bike in the upright position. The yellow lines create a V shape, and if the bike sits within this V shape, you can still brake using 100% brake pressure. The red lines are your maximum angle of lean, usually around the mid part of the corner or the apex. So from the tip-in to the third dot, which here is roughly halfway across the track, normally towards the apex, you can still brake 100%. But from the third dot to the fourth dot, where we finally release the brake, it's a progressive easing off of the pressure. This allows the weight to transfer back to the rear, balancing the bike as you close in on the apex, dot 5. Now still on a closed throttle, giving the bike the best chance to turn into the apex. Back to the first dot, the braking point. The bike's close to upright, so it's 100% braking. Right up to the second dot, the tipping point, still 100% braking, as the bike's still relatively upright. Closing in on the third dot, we're still inside the V shape, so it's possible to brake 100%. But from this point to the fourth dot, we're now outside of the V, so we must start to ease off the brakes to a point where eventually you've released them completely. How hard you squeeze the lever, where and when, it's easier to visualize this using the pressure over time chart. Approaching the initial braking point, we're at the start and the bottom of the chart. Quickly yet smoothly build to 100% brakes. As time and distance go by, up to the tipping point, it's still 100% braking. As you start to tip into the corner to the mid-track point, being in the V, it's still 100%. But from mid-track heading towards the apex, we need to ease off the brakes. This shows a tapering of the pressure from maximum to minimum, much more progressively than the initial application. This technique allows the use of brakes ultimately later and deeper into corners. However, it's a confidence issue, something that you need to build up to. Remember, brakes are not a switch with an on-off action. They're a feel-based thing that needs time, experience, and the correct technique to master. This technique obviously has to be tailored to suit the various types of corners that you're going to come across. Here I've overlaid the Donington Park Melbourne loop on top of turn 12 at Macau. Both corners go back on themselves, However, because of the much larger radius of the Mugello corner, the apex and corner speed is much higher than Donington. Thus the entry speed into the corner at Mugello is much higher. The approach speed to both corners is similar, and to help explain the effect of this, it's easier to look at it in graph form. On both circuit layouts I've highlighted points of action: initial brake, tip-in, point of release, and the apex. There are two big differences between them: the amount of time you're on 100% braking between the initial braking point and the tip-in, and then from the tip-in to the release point. On the brake pressure diagram, I've used red for Mugello and green for Donington. At Mugello, the initial braking reference point, rapidly and smoothly build up to 100% braking. Continue that 100% braking up to and just after your tipping point, and not long after that start tapering the brake off towards the release point. At Donington Park, once again from the initial braking point, smoothly and rapidly build up to 100% braking. Then, because of the slower entry speed into the corner, you need longer on the brakes, thus increasing the distance you're at 100% braking. Because of the shorter distance and time to the release point, you need to be a little quicker with the release. The effect of this is having a similar overall braking distance, but a very different feel through the lever. Initially the same to start with, but the release of the brake and the duration of the release being completely different. Trail braking is a great technique to learn. It just takes time and practice.